Hey everyone, welcome back to Reflective Ryse episode 2. My name is Ryan and I am here in my office today recording. I stayed late after work so I could record this episode. Sometimes it can get a little hectic in my house. I don't know what's going on there, so I wanted to have a little bit of quiet and no interruptions, so I figured I'd stay in my office after work and record this next one. Um, First off, I just want to thank everyone who liked and followed and shared it and commented on Facebook and Spotify and YouTube. Um, it means a lot. I honestly didn't expect anybody to listen or watch it at all. So um, it was encouraging to see that people around me wanted to listen and gave me support. So thank you for that. I realized in the last episode that I didn't really explain the meaning of how I came up with the title Reflective Ryse. Like I mentioned, it was something I was thinking about for a while, and I wanted to come up with a podcast, but I wasn't sure what it was going to be called, what it would be about. And once I started getting into more self improvement, self growth type of stuff, I realized I was reflecting a lot. And I thought of reflection, looking back, and I thought of reflection, how it starts with an R, and how when you reflect, you want to look at things that you need to improve on. So when I think of improvement, I think of going up. And obviously, the word rise means to go up, to be lifted. And my name's Ryan. So I did a little play on words and chose Reflective Ryse with a Y. So that my name is included. And so it has a little bit of repetitiveness, so you can remember it, Reflective Ryse. I don't know. That's just what I came up with. So that's pretty much how it originated. The meaning behind it kind of starts back in 2024 in the fall. I was reading this book called The Joy of Well-Being. I'm going to look up who wrote it because it's a really good book. I highly suggest reading it. It is by Colleen Wackub and Jason Wackub. I don't know if I'm saying their last name right, but really good book. It's a guide to having a happy, healthy, and long life, which is what I would think most of us want in our lives. For me personally, as a kid, I always thought I was going to live to age like 150. And as lifespans extend every year, and with medicine and all these, life hacks, I don't know. Who knows if any of them actually work or not. But the best you can do is try new things. And when I was reading this book, there was a lot of things that I was taking into my life from it. One thing was just going for walks. Going for walks is one of the easiest things you can do. And just doing it repeatedly every day can make a huge improvement in your life. Another huge thing that I got from this book was the idea of cold plunging. I know a lot of people that I know that I do cold plunging. But if you don't know me, I started cold plunging pretty much when I started reading this book. I started off with cold showers and just doing like 30 seconds at the end of every shower, making it as cold as possible. And I noticed that it started to make me like get super hyped up and like so energetic. So I got really into it and I looked further into it and I really wanted to get an ice bath. So at the end of last summer or in the middle of the summer, I bought an ice bath from the Pod Company, which you may have seen videos of me doing. And I made a homemade ice chiller so I could keep the water cold. And I started to do that repeatedly. I just kind of got addicted to it at first. In a good or bad way, I'm not sure, because I tried to push my limits a lot and ended up doing one where I stayed in for like 9 minutes at 42 degrees or 46 degrees. I don't remember, but it was not fun. I was cold for like 3 hours. But anyways, with the cold plunging, I started to do it repeatedly, and I would wake up super early in the morning and go in. It would be the first thing I did. And it just gave me this huge dopamine hit. And I was just like, noticed I was less stressed all the time. It made doing things I thought were hard before easier because I was already doing something that I thought was hard. So that was a huge step in my life that got me a little closer to the point I don't know if I knew at the time I wanted to be at. But basically, as I started going through cold plunging and challenging myself, I realized that I really enjoyed the idea of pushing my limits and trying new things that weren't fun. And because a lot of the best things in life are on the other side of things that are not fun. So when I did something as simple as cold plunging, I started to realize, being in cold water is not everyone's favorite thing. And it's not my favorite thing either. But the feeling after is what started to get me in a mindset of, okay, what can I do now that will push me past my limits, that will give me the same feeling? So since then, I still do cold plunging. I don't do it as much as I did before, but I still do it every week. And it's just something that challenges me. And it's got so many benefits mentally and physically. Definitely a stress reliever for sure. I know that having a source of stress that isn't from, work or just life in general can stress your body in a way that will teach it to have good stress. So I've heard the term good stress on a podcast before. And if you put your body through good stress, it's still being stressed. And then your body learns from that stress. So when I heard that term, good stress, it kind of clicked in my brain and I related it to my cold plunging. And I wanted to dive more into natural stressors like cold plunging. And I haven't found many other ones yet, but the cold plunging for sure has been a huge change in my mood and de-stressing. I don't really feel super stressed about life when I'm doing something that hard. And I always try to get people to consider it, just to try it. It's not for everybody, but it definitely can change some people's lives. But going back to this, the whole point of me bringing up the cold plunging was that it started this change in my life where I started to reflect on a lot of stuff. And I was getting into a lot of, Andrew Huberman. There's this podcast called Know Thyself that I really love. I've always been a huge fan of Yes Theory, and their slogan is Seek Discomfort. So that's another slogan that I live by, is seeking discomfort. But yeah, so I started to, listen to all these podcasts, start reading these books, and it all started just to click in my brain that I really wanted to start a podcast, because I was listening to all these podcasts, and there's so many interesting things and perspectives that you can learn, and I want to share it with people. And I mentioned this in the last episode. I want to share it with my family, my friends, other people who may not know a lot of things in this particular part of the world. And there's a lot of interesting stuff that comes out of it. So, like I mentioned, this podcast, Reflective Ryse, that's where it stemmed from, was just me going through a time in my life where I got really interested and intrigued with self-improvement and just the way that it made me feel, made me want to share it with others. And I want to help other people find their true meaning and their true self. And if I can do that just by making a little podcast here and there with some insight that I've learned, then that will fulfill me. So that's kind of where I'm trying to get at. So I kind of discussed on the last podcast what the goal is for this podcast. I figured I'd make this short little episode to kind of explain where the idea for this podcast came from, and where the name came from, Reflective Ryse. I figured the best time to explain the meaning of the podcast name would probably be one of the first few episodes. So that's why I wanted to record today. So that's pretty much all I have today. I really appreciate everybody tuning into the first episode, and I definitely want to make more. So if you have any ideas for anything, please feel free to let me know. Comment on the podcast on YouTube, Spotify, wherever you're listening to it. I think that's the only places I'm putting it. But thank you, everybody, again, for all the support. And let me know what you thought about this one. Let me know what you think of the name. Again, let me know if you have any ideas for future topics. So yeah, that's pretty much it for today. Thanks for tuning in again, and I'll see you next time I record a podcast. Thanks. See ya.